of a Jesus girl. Jesus girl. Hey, it's the diary of a Jesus girl. Let the wings of the spirit of the Lord just swirl. You are in it, but you know you're not a part of this world. And for the swine, you should never cast your pearl. Yes, it's just the diary of a Jesus girl. The diary of a Jesus girl. Welcome to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast, where we discuss real-life issues of the committed Christian woman. This podcast will inspire you to love Jesus and impact lives like Jesus. And now it's time for your host, Crystal Day, award-winning author, speaker, and Christian coach.
Welcome to another episode of the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast with yours truly, Crystal Day, in the building. Listen, guys, I know you're gonna say I'm biased because every single guest that I invite on the podcast, I'm always saying they're amazing guests, but they really are, right? I really do believe that, we're in a season where, a lot of kingdom influencers are just arising. Gone are the days when you're like, only way you can see a little Christian person was in the church, probably admire a local pastor. But listen, I love social media. You all know that I love social media. And because of social media, I'm able to connect with women all over the world. And this woman we're going to Canada today, where this woman will be sharing her testimony. And listen, it's when she's ready to go hard. Like, our post them is like, like why, she's one of those persons that really have you to, just remind you of who you are in Christ, but also that, we're living in this world. And I'm just excited about this conversation. So I want to welcome Miss Makini Smith to the Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast.
Thank you for having me, Crystal. It's an honor, absolute honor to be a guest on your podcast. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Listen, when you go on her Instagram, when I say girl ever on fleek, like when I grow up on me, like, and then when she put up a picture of her daughter and she's like mother and daughter, you're like, she be lying, because she just looks so fresh. But I know it's the youthfulness of the Lord, that and His grace that is just shining up on you. So how are you? Tell us, how are you doing in the pandemic? How are things in Canada? How are things with you first?
I am good. Honestly, I'm blessed. I mean, there has been so many things that have happened during the pandemic, and I honestly believe with all things, there's good and bad. And I've been able to focus on the good things in the pandemic. And instead of being one of those people that are just surviving, I feel like I'm thriving. I'm doing well in, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, financially. So I cannot complain. God has been good to me. And, despite the lockdown and people not being able to do things, I'm going to say the pandemic suits my personality, because a lot of people really don't believe me when I say this, but I'm severely introverted. So I prefer my alone time. As much as I love the work that I do and connecting with people and building relationships, I enjoy and really have a chance to flourish when I am by myself and alone. So, when I'm able to be still and to hear God. So I'm good.
Listen, when you I feel like just right there, like when you can thrive in a pandemic, it's almost like when she was talking, I picture Jesus laying on the boat and the and he's like, Jesus just like cut him 10. Everybody's like, hello, you don't see the style, like, come on, that's just the feeling that I got. I'm just hearing that from you. So I just want to thank you and to share that. And it's not, I'm sure we're not saying that, hey, things are not happening, people are losing loved ones, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that because she also lost a sister that was her best friend, and that's something that we had in common when I was just just kind of researching and knowing more about her. But even in all of that, there is still the goodness of God, and I want to thank you for that. But just before we start with the question, I want to share a little bit about her. So Makini Smith is a mindset coach and a consultant, and she helps persons to turn their goals into accomplishment. She's a 4-time published author and the host of the rated 5-star rated a walk in My Stiletto podcast, and I know a walk in the stiletto. I'm one of those OGs for you from that book came out, right? I know that book, that purple book, right? A walk in the stiletto. So I've been a fan and following her work from then. I know it's a podcast that I am looking forward to being a guest on soon. Shameless plug just in case. But I've listened quite a few of the episodes with Lucinda. Quite a few of the interviews that you have done, and really amazing work that you're doing over there. So also she coach women who are frustrated, confused, and isolated, and she helps them to find peace and clarity and connection, right? So if you want to write a book, if you want to launch a podcast, and just to turn your dreams into a reality, that's what she specializes in doing. And of course, she has a story of, being a teen mom, losing her sister and just going through the darkest moments of her life and experiencing Christ, which gets into our first question. Our official question is, tell us about your journey to Christ. Like, what's your conversion story? What was life like growing up for you? How did you meet God? What was that story? Tell us.
So interesting enough, my mother's a Christian and my father's a Rastafarian. And when I was born, that was, I guess, the early parts of my father's Rastafarian journey. So he wouldn't allow my mother to baptize me when I was a baby. So I wasn't baptized until I was about 12 years old. And I didn't understand it then. I just knew that my mom would send me to church, and sometimes I go with the neighbors, sometimes I go with my mom, but I didn't understand any of it at the time. I just knew that it was a part of our life, our routine. And then when my son was born 15 years ago, that year, I started to go to church regularly with my sister and my mother. And as an adult now, I'm having more of an understanding of, even the word itself and how to live the word. So when I started that journey, I started to look at life differently. And then in 2012, my sister passed away. And when she passed away, because my presence in church was influenced highly by my sister, who would go to church every Sunday with me and Bible study every Wednesday with me. When she passed away, my grieving process, that process was very hard on me, but I found comfort in going to church because that was where I still felt closest to my sister. So through my grieving process, I guess trying to find an answer as to, why would God take my sister? If she's such a great person, if she was doing work, and helping other people, motivating people, why would he take her? I was frustrated. But that helped me to build a deeper relationship with God, because I learned fully to trust God at that and in those moments. And since then, being able to honor my sister's life and to continue building my relationship with God, I just feel like I've become a completely different person. My faith level, some people think I'm crazy sometimes. They're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I trust God. I'm good. God's got me. He's never let me down before, even in the last second. He's always come through. So I would say that's my conversion story.
And even on your website, you mentioned, in the darkest moments, that's where you kind of found Christ. And what I found interesting, we always hear things like, how we're broken for his glory, or, God can turn a mess into a message and he can turn your pain into purpose. So in those moments, you don't want to hear that. like what? Like what? Yeah. So I want you to kind of share with us, because you have been coaching women who have gone through, really challenging seasons, especially probably knowing the COVID time. And what would you say, or what kind of encouragement, inspiration can you give someone that's probably feeling like, hey, I've gotten my heart broken by a man, that I truly love, and I don't even know if I can move on, or I lost a loved one, and probably love more than one loved ones, just kind of take us through, what inspiration that you can share with, somebody that like that, based on your own experience.
Absolutely. Like I can completely relate to all of those things. Like I have been in my dark moments and had people say to me, you know, it's going to get better, whatever positive message that they tried to tell me. But in the moment, you're right. You don't want to hear that. I've been through the devastating heartbreaks. I've been through, loved ones passing away. I've been through losing everything and having to start over again. I've been through health challenges. I've been through all of those things. So to any woman that is listening right now, honestly, it cannot rain forever. When we're in those dark places, sometimes it's hard to see the light. But if you actually take a second to be still, that is where you will see through the cracks of everything that you are going through, that there is light. Sometimes we're so focused on the darkness that it's almost like we're forcing ourselves not to see the light. We are so focused on the negative thoughts and the negative feelings, but all of that is affecting our physical body. All of those negative thoughts and feelings, as much as we do need to process them and work our way through them, we're not supposed to stay stuck there. We're supposed to, in those moments, look at what is the lesson or the blessing that can come from this. Because I can tell you for a fact, every single thing that I've been through, no matter how dark, no matter how low I felt, there was always a blessing or a lesson that came from that and has been a part of my journey that has sharpened me to be who I am today.
That's good. That's good. Wow, I never thought about it like that. Like everything, there is either a blessing and a lesson, that is powerful, because even as you think about the word of God says that all things are working together for the good of those who love him. But the truth is, there is a condition, because if you don't love him, then you won't be able to see it working out for your good. You'll always be able to stay in that down space, that darkness. So, I really hope that is definitely inspirational for somebody that's listening. I want to go back a little because, even as you shared about, being a teen mom and now 3 children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, I mean, as I said, the pictures look like you are brothers and sisters, right? Like, I was like, you sure? Like, she's sure, 3 children. But take us through that journey of motherhood, from being a teen mom to, 3, growing kids. What has that journey been like for you?
It's funny you say that. We were at a family barbecue for a friend this weekend, and we were playing volleyball out in the yard. And most of the people that were there didn't even know who I was, but they knew my children. And my daughter was on the opposite side playing against me, and she went to hit the ball, and she's like, "Come on, mom." And some guy turned and looked at her and said, "Who?" He's like, "I thought that was your friend." So yeah, I get that a lot because I did have a start. I'm going to say I did start early. I had my first child when I was 17. And obviously that was not planned, but I was with their father since before I turned 15. We were together for 8.5 years. So it wasn't like I was, a loose cannon running around in the streets. But, I'm going to say things happen. And I'm one of those people that believe in owning all of my actions. Sometimes people will do things and I'm going to say, have regrets or blame other people. But like I said before, everything is a blessing or a lesson. Like all of my kids are blessings, regardless of they were planned or not. So when I was 17, I looked like I was 12. So most people were not very kind to this little girl, on the bus with this big belly. But that is where I believe that I started to become headstrong. That was where my journey of understanding that life isn't just about me, it's far greater than me. And that was, I'm going to say, the start of where I believe that not only was I put here to be a greater contribution to this world, but also my children. So now that child that I had when I was 17, she's 23. She's an entrepreneur doing great in her business. She's super, super multi-talented. I have a daughter who is now 20. She's a social media influencer, doing great things internationally online. And then I have my son who is like a mega genius, and he is 15. So I know it's, I started early, and I feel like I almost had an opportunity to grow up with my kids. And I also feel like even how I parent, to some parents, who old school parents, they may not necessarily agree with, but as a woman who has many grown women that come to me for coaching, who are now in a place in their life where they felt that they lived for everyone else or did what everyone else wanted them to do and not what they wanted to do. And they're now in their 40s and 50s trying to unlearn what they learned as a child to be able to relearn. I don't want my kids to have to go through that because of my actions. So I allow them to learn as we grow. There's a lot of things where some parents may feel that they need to control or have their hands in, but rather than micromanage them, I will give them guidance, but I allow them to make their mistakes so they can learn for themselves, so that by the time they hit 40 and 50, they're not living with regrets and they're thriving in areas of their genius, rather than trying to figure out at that point who they are, who they want to be, and how they want to contribute to this world.
Listen, that is powerful. One major takeaway that you said, and I hope somebody that's listening, that how you steward your child is, God is going to hold you responsible. So it's not for me to do what I feel like, oh, yes, you can learn from other mothers, you can read books to learn, but in the end, you have to just try to do the best that you can, because we are all imperfect beings trying to live this faith walk outside. Thank you for that. And also when you spoke, I just remember my mom, a lot of people were very, very, attacking her because she gave me a lot of freedom as a teen, a lot of freedom. And I tell people all the time, whether they want to believe it or not, the reason why I did not get into trouble like I could is only because I knew that she trusted me, and I was able to make my mistakes, and I was able to farm who I am from a very young age because of, her independence, and I'm grateful for that. But, I thank you for that too. So here's where I want to go. As a teen mom, there, you could have just, and you mentioned that you have lost, everything and had to start over. So how did you leave from being in that down place, that hard place of pain, to now being the coach, the influencer, the podcaster, the author? You have the walking stiletto, not just as a book, I wrote one book, oh yeah, me, no, but it became a movement of inspiring women, like, how did that come to life? We want to know. Somebody that's listening wants to know, how did Makini just evolved?
Honestly, a walk in my stilettos evolved based on my walk in faith. I'm going to say my personal journey and my spiritual journey, being able to be open and vulnerable enough to teach as I learn. So, sometimes we're going through a thing and we don't want to share because we feel shamed or embarrassed. From the time that I had my daughter at 17, I learned from that point that I needed to own my story, and I wasn't going to allow that to own me so that people could shame me. So I became very transparent from then. So instead of people being able to use my story to try to shame or gossip or do whatever people want to do with it, me telling it point blank, giving it to people straight from the horse's mouth, facts and all, feeling no way about it, people are like, did she just say yes? Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yes.
So it, at first, just even, sharing it with people while I was evolving. But then after my sister passed, after going through the divorce, I was in different women's groups and support groups and stuff, just sharing my story. And people were shocked at my transparency, but also how I was able to still remain positive and to keep going. And that stemmed from my faith, my belief in God. That stemmed from prayer and affirmation. That stemmed from knowing that there is far greater than me. So instead of being in a place of pity and, staying in that low place, I was able to, as I'm going through the process, share to help other women to be able to go through the process. And my mindset was, if I'm able to help at least one other person, then I'm good. I've done my job, then I feel satisfied. But in the process, God took everything that I was doing and multiplied that. And instead, I've been able to help hundreds of thousands instead. You know, when my book first came out, I was like, I told the original publisher, if I could just help one woman get out of the position that she's in, get out of feeling like she's in that sunken place, I will be happy. And within the first week of the book coming out, I had women from Australia contacting me, asking me to mentor them. I had women all across the US contacting me, asking me more about my story. I had women that were messaging me through social media, telling me that they felt that I had written their story. They felt that I had a video camera in their home recording them and was writing their story. So my transparency not only allowed me to see that I wasn't alone, but it helped women all over the world to not feel alone. And that transparency, that vulnerability allowed us to connect on a deeper level. So the more that I evolve, I'm helping the community of women around me evolve as well. And that's, so I used to call my community faith walkers because it was all about walking by faith. But I feel like it's far greater than that. It's about leaving a legacy, because it's not just about us. So I now call them legacy leavers. So now there's a community of legacy leavers that are out here. Yes, we're walking by faith, but we are, as a community, trying to not only improve the mindset of other women, but what we can achieve, not just for our families and ourselves and our countries, but the world and the kingdom.
I hear you, and it sounds good, but I want you to share with us practically, like, how can a woman going through a divorce, losing a loved one, gone through teenage pregnancy, experiencing, so much lack, wondering how she's going to bounce back, just find that, I don't know, you say faith to be transparent and to, serve others. Some women are listening right now and saying, oh, she make it sound that easy, but
it's not easy. I'll be honest.
Talk to us. Yeah. I wanted to shut the critics. I know there's always that enemy whispering to somebody, oh, she make it sound easy, but talk to us about that practical journey of some things that you had to do.
And that's just it right there. People have to be in a place where they are ready to be changed or ready to be moved. You can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped. So there may be someone listening right now that is in a place they don't want help. And unfortunately, it's not our job to help them, right? They have to find that connection with God for themselves. And once they are ready to heal, they will hear differently. When we are in an unhealed place, we don't hear from a place of being able to receive. A closed mind cannot accept new ideas. So when we are open to healing, when we are open to change and evolution, then we will hear what we need to hear in that moment. There have been many books that I have read, and the first time I read it, I was like, what is this? Like, this is crap. What is this person talking about? This don't make no sense. But when I evolved and I reread the book, I was like, oh my goodness, I did not see this the first time that I read this. I must have missed this. No, my mind was closed. I was not ready to heal. I was not ready to hear that. So sometimes, even in what we're saying, and that's another thing about my brand and the authenticity, is I'm not trying to change people who don't want to be changed. I'm not here for everybody. I'm not for everybody. It's those who are, I'm going to say, depending on what you believe, but it's those who are resonating on the same vibration as me. It's those that are in the same spirit as me. Because if I'm resonating up here and I'm speaking from my place of awareness and my truth, and somebody is down here and they're saying, I don't believe what you're saying, and they're living in a place of skepticism and negativity, I can't drag this person up here without them putting in some work. So in terms of it not being easy, Everything requires work. Nothing's easy. Nothing. If it is, everybody would be living great. But we already know there's only like 3% of the population that controls 97% of the world's wealth, because there are things that they understand or that they are doing that the rest of us don't understand and are not doing. We haven't reached that level of awareness yet, right? So when it comes to a lot of the things that I did to come out of that dark place, it's like as I was going through it, like I said, in that moment, it was like, okay, God, what is it that I have to learn right now in this very moment? Because what you need to learn right now in this moment and what I need to learn right now in this moment may be very, very different. And sometimes we are looking at someone else's life and someone else's journey and comparing and then hindering ourselves from our greatness. So we have to look at the lesson that we have to learn right now in this moment. And then once we tap into that, okay, how can we use that lesson and what we are good at, our area of genius, to be of service? Because if we are sitting in a place of solitude, only focusing on ourselves, ego, we're not going to get anywhere. But when you come out of your ego and you look at the world from a place of service, there has been many times where I've been going through it hard and nobody had a clue, because I was still coaching clients. I was still showing up online. I was still showing love and helping people to attain their dreams. Why was I doing that? Because it made me feel better. So when you're in a low place, so there are some people that are Christian or faith believers that don't also believe in, when I talk about like energy and vibration. So I'll try to bring it back to like both places. But if someone is vibrating on a low vibration, they're in a low spirit. If you, in a place of service, try to help someone else, that joy, that energy, that spirit that you make that person feel helps to lift you out of that low place. So whether you want to call it spirit, whether you want to call it energy, whether you want to call it vibration, vibes, whatever you want to label it, whatever title you want to give it, it's the same thing. So what I did when I was in a low place is I stopped focusing inward on my struggles and looked at how I could be of service, and that lifted me out so I could be aware and now have an open mind and be on a higher vibration, higher spirit to receive, because we can only attract what we are in harmony with. So if I'm sitting here on this low vibration and all I'm focusing on is low vibration, the world is going to continue to give me things on a low vibration. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And here's what I'm taking away from what you said. Because as you said, people use the terms interchangeably. There's so many things happening, but for the woman that's listening and saying, how do I relate to what she's saying? And one of the things I've taken away is that the truth is, main thing I feel like is, guess what, at the end of the day, you are responsible for yourself. And that's something that the Lord, he's not going to let my mother be accountable. God is not going to let my mother be accountable to me. Even if she has done me 20 million wrong, there's no way when Jesus comes from world, he can say, oh, it's because of my mother. There comes a time we have to take responsibility. And that's one of the major things. So somebody that's listening is, like you said, you had to realize, hey, I have to take responsibility. I am responsible for, getting myself out of this. Yes, God will do it, but God is not going to force you, right? And sometimes he forces us, and you ever know some people and everything bad is happening and they it's still bad happening and they're still not changing, they're still not giving it a chance. No matter what God says, no matter how much prophetess, whatever you feel like you need, happen. If you don't make up your mind to do something about your situation, if you don't make up your mind to say, hey, I'm going to receive the abundance and the blessing that is existing, same like how Makini can evolve to be able to be such an impact to women all over the world. It is possible for me too. It is possible for me too. And that's a big takeaway. And the second thing, as you said, who you are connecting yourself to. Right, because some of you are sitting and listening to the friend that is telling you, yes, a true, him should have done that, and yeah, and yeah, and your friends are, and they don't want you. One, most of the times they are unhealed themselves,
Yeah.
and if they're unhealed, they can't help you, right? And then also sometimes the truth is people are just don't want you to be better. They want you to stay in that stuck place, because sometimes the enemy sees, the potential that you have, and he sends seeds of doubt through people, right? So I really want to thank you, because that's what I'm taking away, Go ahead.
As I say, that was one of the key things that I also had to be mindful of, because energy is transferable, spirit is transferable, right? So look at your environment, look at the people that you're around, because sometimes those same people are not the people that are going to be around when you evolve to a higher level. Why? Because they're not vibrating on that level. Sometimes those people are stuck in gossip and in negative thoughts, and they'll be around to listen when, you're on your face. But let's see if they're still around when, you're climbing up and you're trying to evolve. You're going to connect with different people. So I had to remove myself from the people that I was around, because they were stuck in that dark place. They weren't interested in evolving personally. They were complacent in where they were in life. So I had to, I utilized social media, and I found online mentors. I found other women that I aspired to be like. And that was what I used as my motivation to say, well, I want to, emulate the qualities of this person. And then you start to build relationships with them online. And then you take those online relationships offline. And many times I've gone to different countries and met up with women that I've met, online through social media. So being able to come out of that environment of, who I was around and the things that I was listening to, because they're planting those bad seeds into your head. They're encouraging all of those negative thoughts instead of being around people who are going to help you to find solutions for those things.
Nice. So here's where I want to go, because you're a coach, right? Coaching, I believe, is one of the most powerful tools to help persons to transform them life, and there's so many people that I don't know why they don't believe in coaching, but it is a tool that God is using in this season, just like mentorship and counseling and all of these, coaching is one of those tools. Now, you are a mindset coach and you talk a lot about personal development, but what I realize is that a lot of women, especially, they probably will pay for coaching for business so they can make some money, or they probably a health coach if they feel like, I'm out of, but when it comes on to life coaching, mindset coaching, personal development, where it requires them to grow, they don't want to invest in that. So tell us what you think are some of the importance of, one, elevating that mindset, and also, personal development. What does that look like for you? And, how you have helped clients to do that, or, how you have seen clients grown because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with mindset coaching, what I do is a mix of personal and business development, because they synchronize. They are together. They're not separate. Sometimes people look at, hiring a coach and thinking, okay, well, and this is why I don't really like the term life coach, because nobody's an expert at life. But, sometimes people will look at what I do and assume that it's just personal development, but when they get into the sessions, realizing how it applies to all areas of their life. You can apply these principles to your relationship. You can apply these principles to your business partnerships, to, your family, all areas of your life. I think people will hire, a health coach or a coach for their business and not realize that everything starts with mindset. If I wanted to lose 30 pounds at the gym, me going to the gym and hiring a personal trainer isn't going to get me anywhere if I'm not working on my mindset. Because whether I do the activities temporarily and temporarily lose the way that the brain is programmed, it's programmed to find anything that it loses. So I'm going to gain back those 20, 30 pounds, and probably sometimes and more, because I haven't worked on the mindset. And that's why you see people go up and down with their weight with certain things, because everything starts with mindset. So even in business, if I go into business and let's say by chance, I start to prosper in a certain area of business, there's going to come a point where I'm going to have to work on personal development Because in order for that business to be able to build and to scale, if my mindset isn't right, my habits are going to affect the business. Because mindset is all about our habits. It's about our paradigm. It's about how we do things on a regular basis, whether it be how we look at ourselves, whether it be our efficiency, our productivity, whether it be our ability to collaborate with other people. It's all part of mindset.
Which you kind of answer the question, because I was going to just ask you, what, because we hear mindset, you said, and I'm wondering if you're throwing word on me, because every time I lose weight, I hate the gym. I know, I just kidding, but yeah, my mindset is I don't want to exercise. I want to eat what I want to eat, and why can't I? Jesus can't just make me stay slim, right? Like, why can't I just pray for slimness?
But if you look at that, right? Okay, if you wanted to work on your mindset with that, instead of saying I want to lose weight, or I want to, be a particular weight on the scale, whatever. Look at the identity of who you want to be. So when you get up in the morning, what does a healthy person eat? What does a healthy person drink? How much physical activity does a healthy person do? What kind of books does a healthy person read? So when you look at it from that perspective, that is the mindset of it. So that's how you'll be successful at doing that, rather than saying, you know what, I'm going to go hire a personal trainer and go jump up and down at the gym for, 30 days and then skip the next 60 days because I don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it. But yeah, well, listen, that is a breakthrough moment right there, because like you said, like when you were talking about the business aspect, after a while, many of us, we reach a pinnacle of success and then we just fall. And it's not that we're not capable, it's because we haven't expanded who we are to become that person that is able to acquire that success, and boy, like my mind is blown even now as you're talking, because they're like, whoa, this is why the Bible tells us every time, renewing of the mind. They can't throw all new wine in old wine skin because it will burst. You can't just say like, and we hear the word mindset and we're like over it, like roll our eyes like, oh my God, like mindset conversations again. But you're like, know that you're saying it, it's not so much the activity, but who you're supposed to become, and how can I expand, my vision of who I should become. Wow.
Right. Wow. There's a lot of people that have a vision of what they would like to do, but because of whether it be the chains that need to be broken, whether it be the bondage that they're in their own mind, it's hindering them from that level of success. Like I have, and I don't know what the conversion is in Jamaican dollars, but I have clients that some of them are making $150,000 Canadian a year. I have clients that are making $100,000 US a month. But because of their mindset, because of things that they need to unlearn and relearn, they got stagnant in their business. And after, usually within the first 3 sessions, it starts to unlock things within them, and then they start to increase in their business. I have the client that's making $100,000 a month US. She had her best 2 months this year in her business, the first 2 months that we were working together, because there was things that needed to be unlocked within her, some of her habits and some of her beliefs about herself, some of her habits about allowing other people, including family, to take advantage. And once we looked at what her vision is for her life and for her business, we had to break down who she needed to be, who she needed to identify with in order to make that happen. Sometimes it's being able to release and not look at micromanaging your business, but learning to hire people quickly so that you can focus on your area of genius. Maybe it could be someone who's good at baking cakes. So then they need to hire someone to do the books. They need to hire someone to do the social media. They need to hire people to do all the things that they are not great at, so they can focus their energy on baking the cakes and multiply the business, right? So sometimes it's really just how our perspective of a thing and the habits that we're doing that are hindering us from the greatness within our business. And oftentimes it's about our belief from childhood some kind of, sometimes they're childhood traumas, childhood wounds, things that we believe about what we deserve, that we have to work through. There's one particular session where we really focus on self-image, on who we believe we are. And honestly, your spiritual DNA is perfect because that's how God made you. But yet inside, we see ourselves as flawed. We stress and worry and fear all of these things. And basically, it's like causing, what is it called? It's like when a computer gets a virus, right? We're allowing these things to destroy the greatness within us.
Oh, wow. Listen, ladies, if you're listening to this, whether you're a male, if you're a young person listening to this, you are way advanced than many of us, right? Being exposed to these things. If you're a woman that's listening, I want you to really pay attention to the conversation. This is not one of those podcasts where, yes, make noises. It's almost like she's speaking to your soul, like, just calling out, the woman that you need to become. That's kind of how I feel. Like, it's not how you want to be. Yeah, the excitement. Sometimes we get so excitement and the emotionalism, but she's speaking to your soul, speaking to our souls, like saying, there's so much more that can evolve from who you are. Where you are at is you don't have to stay there. There's so much more potential in you, and that mindset piece, that owning the story, that willing to do the work, being able to come out of your comfort zone, practicing habits that are healthy and that leads to you being wealthy, and not financial way, but just the abundance. We're in a pandemic, instead of feeling like you are, just you're actually striving in this season. So wow, let's just, wow, thank you for your obedience with that. So as I want to just ask you 5 questions, so we're going to do what we call 5 questions in 5 minutes. So you have a minute to answer these questions. So just, first thing come to mind, just share. And ready all right. So the first thing, I want you to share advice for a single woman trusting God for a spouse. You have been married before, you're still on that journey. What is your advice? Especially because so many of us feel like, when we get married, we reach the epitome of our success. And, this is where life begins. And if I don't get a ring, then I won't. Yeah. So because you have gotten a ring, talk to us about that journey. Okay. Talk to single women right now.
So to all the single women that are listening, a man is not going to complete you. You need to do the work to complete yourself. You need to be whole in order to attract the man that is for you. Like I said earlier, we can only attract what we are in harmony with. So the more that you work on you, that is how you will attract the partner that is for you. And not just working on you on the outside, because if there's anything that I've learned, there's a lot of things that we have dealt with as children, like I mentioned earlier, the childhood wounds, childhood traumas that are laying dormant within us. And they start to manifest when we get into relationships, things that trigger us to behave in a certain way, where it's like the 5-year-old girl inside of the body of the 35-year-old woman. So start to heal who you are spiritually, emotionally, and do that work. Start to make an effort to take care of yourself. I'm a strong believer in self-care and self-love. Making sure that you pay attention to who you are, making sure that you are cared for. That way, when you meet and are aligned with the partner that is for you, you will be able to give them proper instructions on how you want to be treated. You will know what love feels like because you will love yourself. So you won't accept any and anybody that just comes along the way and wants to put a ring on it.
Listen, we can just drop the mic. Like if you don't love you, how are you going to know what healthy love look like? Hey, that was good. That was good. Next question. You talk about that inner childhood, that inner childhood, that trauma, that sometimes still is in charge, and making that decision for us. For somebody that's listening, probably can give us one or two ways that they can identify that, they are still being affected by these, inner wounds.
So majority of adults, and a lot of us don't even want to acknowledge it, but when you start to do the deeper inner work, you'll realize that it's there. Majority of us, how we behave today are trauma responses. We have been programmed from we were kids to react a certain way, whether it be to someone else's facial expressions, because as a child, maybe you were trying to impress your caregiver or your parent, and they, had an angry look on their face, or, give you a cut eye or whatever they gave you at that point. Your brain was programmed from a child to say, okay, don't do that because they didn't like that. So a lot of the way that we behave as adults is programming from when we were kids. And there's a lot of things that need to be reprogrammed. So look at your responses to things. Look at the relationships around you, because your results right now are based off of everything that you've done up until this point. So if you're not happy with the results in your life, look at what it is that you're doing and how you can create healthier habits. One thing that I have had to learn to do now at 41 years old is to prioritize self-care, because my childhood wound, my childhood traumas stemmed from being a child whose needs were not met, because naturally, usually within Caribbean community, Black people, we have, I'm going to say, a more rigid way of parenting. And sometimes our children do not receive the love that they need, not want, need, in order to grow up as healthy adults. So me learning now to give myself the love that I did not receive as a child is me healing those childhood wounds.
Listen, I could listen to you all day. I feel like I can't ask. So the third question, which I can't ask, self-care for Black women. Just talk to us a little bit about that, because as you said, I remember working with a coach, and she kept saying to me that, hey, you realize that there is no decision that you have made before you. Like, you're always thinking about your parents, you're thinking about your daughter, you're thinking about God. Not that you shouldn't think about God, but there's you truly don't know what and probably that stemmed from being the eldest child and feeling from a very young, pressured from a young age to be the super hero of the family, and then somewhere in between, I just didn't realize that I don't even know if why I'm doing what I'm doing is for me anymore, So that came to mind when you were talking. So talk to us about, that healthy self-care.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see, because I have clients from all over the world, I definitely see a difference in what we believe as Black women or women from the Caribbean cultures that are self-care. And it's not going to get your nails done and your hair done and, your makeup done. It's the mindful taking of time to pay attention to you in the way that ensures that you are being cared for, but not just on a superficial level. So it means knowing who you are and your limits. It means getting the sleep that you need at night and how much rest you actually need. It means making sure that you're well fed, having, 3 meals a day and not having one and skipping the day because you're so busy taking care of everybody else. Self-care means finding a way to decompress throughout the day because life is stressful. It means just taking time to get to know you better. The same way that if we were getting to know a new friend or business partner or in a relationship, and we invest time into getting to know that person to the point where we recognize their voice without seeing them, we could see them from far and recognize them from behind. Do you know yourself in that same way? We all need to take that time to get to know who we are, identify what brings you joy, things that feed your spirit, things that make you feel loved. That's self-care.
Oh, and I think I'm gonna do 4 questions because I just feel like I can't wait to re-listen this and grab my journal and just kind of process what you're saying. And this, I tell people I don't care how much people listen to podcasts, because every time I feel like every conversation that I have, I'm having coaching sessions. Like I'm being coached by all of you, like for free, for interview. Like that's just the truth. Like I enjoy doing the podcast. So the final question is, I want you to share with us a book, one book or two books that you feel like, hey, this is a must read for, you know, a woman of faith that really wants to challenge herself to grow. Yeah.
One book that I would recommend right now. I read a book recently, Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. I would recommend that book. I would recommend that book for a woman of faith for many reasons. One, I know it may sound odd, and because I read the book in audiobook, basically he was having a conversation with the devil, and the devil was explaining all of his tricks that he uses to get people in his control, and basically telling you what you can do to maintain basically, I'm going to say, a prosperous life with God. And many people are what he considers a drifter. And drifters, they don't have any goal for their life. They don't have any vision for their life. So basically, they're doing a lot of things that they think are under their control, but it's actually, they've become the devil's puppet. So when you actually be still and set that intention for your life, then every single day will have purpose. You'll be able to live purposefully in what you do every single day. So I know that when I get up tomorrow, I already know my day is planned. And everything that I do, I make sure that there's a part of my day where I'm actually implementing tasks and doing things that are aligned with my purpose to get me towards those goals. Because any free space we leave in our calendar, in our day, the devil's going to find something for you to do. You know, they always talk about idle hands. Like he will find something for you to do and put you in a place you're not supposed to be in.
Yeah.
So be intentional with your day and your time. So I would definitely recommend Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Wow. Definitely will be checking that out. So Makini, like, I thank you for this soul searching, challenging, healing. Like I'm trying to decide what like this is, but this was really an amazing conversation. You know, you are really gifted in this, you know, God has really gifted you to do this.
Thank you.
And you know, I'm just smiling because I do pray that, you know, some women that will listen, you know, we invest in going back to school to get degrees that sometimes we don't even get a better job for. We invest money in, you know, the latest gear, the latest shoes, the latest everything, you know, but then that so you can appear to look good or appear to look whole, but the you in you, you know, most of the times we can see the sadness in your eyes on those really filtered pictures, whether you want to believe it or not, right? And it's obvious because the self, you know, that soul self, that soul, the spirit, you know, that God has given you, you are not stewarding as you ought to. And I pray that, you know, women will reach out to you, you know, they will get a copy of a book, they will listen to your podcast of other women, you know, stories that are also trying to walk in their stilettos in this season. I think for me, you know, just a takeaway I want to share with persons that, you know, it's so important. Like I know, and this is the blessing I feel like for COVID is that so many of us had gotten so comfortable in the church, the religiosity of church. So every Sunday, you know, I go and listen to a sermon, you know, I go and sing on the choir, you know, and things has become so routine that whether you want to believe it or not, you don't even realize you have been very disconnected from your children, very disconnected from your family. You are actually very disconnected from God, even though you are doing all the activities. You know, you don't have friends. Like some of you realize, oh, wow, I don't have friends. But then you were telling yourself, oh, I don't need friends, you know, friends. Like, no, you need people because that's what God has blessed you. And no, we are at this season that we are now forced to, look in the mirror more often, to have this conversation with ourselves, the therapy conversations, the healing conversations, the uncomfortable conversations. And that's what Makini has challenged us to do. And I believe it's very intentional, for such a time as this. So I really pray that you will be willing to invest in, your growth, reading more books, listening to more podcasts, listening to more stories, whatever you need to do. Because even though, many of us, we know that we will die. We know that Jesus will come for his world. We know all of the spiritual aspect, but the truth is you are given this body and you're given this life for a reason and for a purpose. And until, you leave your body, you want to just, really and truly take care of this temple, your mind, your body, the spirit, your relationships. And this conversation reminded me of that. So thank you. You want to tell persons how they can reach out to you, or they can connect with you, how you work with women, just before we go?
Yes. I mean, first, Crystal, thank you for this conversation. Thank you for even your, intuitive gift to ask the right questions. I believe every experience is co-created. So thank you for creating this experience with me.
Welcome.
And, just as you said, I feel like my calling is to help people to heal. And I think oftentimes we look at what we consume with just food, but we're not looking at what we're consuming for our spirit and for our mind. And I think that all the women who are listening start to take a holistic approach to your life. Pay attention every single day to what you are feeding your mind, body, and spirit. And if you want more information from me, about me, if you want to reach out to me on social media, you can find me whether you Google Makini Smith or A Walk in My Stilettos. I play around mostly on Instagram, and you can listen to my podcast, The Walk in My Stilettos podcast, as well.
All right. And I'll leave all the links in the show notes, guys. So thank you again for another amazing episode of A Diary of a Jesus Girl podcast. I will see you next week with, probably another amazing guest. I don't know, solo. I don't know what's up for next week, but what we know is that this week, you all need to go and get your journals. You're going to get your Bible and your pen, and you're going to have some conversations with yourself and with the Lord, because, there's so much more in store for you. You don't have to be, trying to survive in the pandemic. You can thrive like Makina, if you are willing to do the work. So God bless you. I'm praying for you. I love you.
Diary of a Jesus Girl. Jesus Girl.